Number 10, the frilled shark. This is one of the most stealthiest sharks in the sea. This shark is so stealthy that researchers believe that it had been extinct for 80 million years. Little did they know, it's just very good at hiding. The frilled shark is a deep sea dwelling creature that was rediscovered in 2015 when 2 Australian fishermen caught it in their net. Frilled sharks kind of look like an eel, a shark, and a hairbrush kind of had a baby. It has a long, slender body that slithers through the water in a very serpenty way. It earns its name due to the 6 gills it has on either side that fan out in an unusual way. But the really scary part is how many teeth they have. They have over 300 mini daggers in their mouth, angled backwards like hooks so they latch onto their prey like Velcro. It is one of the few creatures on Earth to be considered a living fossil because it happens to be the only one of its kind. It has no other relatives, which if you're someone who doesn't like their in-laws, not really a bad thing, I guess. Number 9, massive amphipods. If you love jumbo shrimp, then oh boy, this would be a treat. Massive amphipods have been found in the trench. They kind of look like massive shrimp, which is a direct result of a phenomenon called giantism. The massive crustaceans can grow to over a foot long in the Challenger Deep, while the ones closest to the surface only reach about 3 centimeters. The reason they have gotten so large is a part of their strategy to help them survive the immense pressure of being a deep sea survivor. A group of molecules called a piezolyte were found, and they help stabilize proteins against hydrostatic pressure. This helps them survive and could have a hand in helping them grow to be so large. Number 8, glass amoebas. In order to live that far down into the ocean, there are going to be 3 main things that you'll have to overcome: lack of light, freezing temperatures, and a lot of pressure. Therefore, intense survival skills are required. Scientists were shocked to find Foraminifera, a kind of amoeba, surviving down in Mariana's Trench, but with some alterations. This kind of organism is found all over the world, but usually they build hard shells for themselves out of calcium carbonate. Down in the trench, the intense pressures dissolve these minerals, leading them to instead build a kind of glass house. They have adapted to use proteins, organic polymers, and even sand, which is made from silicon dioxide, which forms a kind of pressure-proof glass shell. A specific kind of Foraminifera called xenophyphores have taken this one step further and glue sand, casts of shells, and microbial skeletons to their feces, which essentially makes a pressure-proof shell to live in. Gotta do what you gotta poo, do. Number 7, the barreleye fish. This fish looks like Pixar teamed up with Tim Burton and made this fish up. It looks like an animation floating in the water. Nothing makes sense. Someone once said to me that if you've thought about it, chances are someone's done it or that it exists. I imagine that's untrue for most things, but I've definitely thought about what it could be like to have a see-through body, and this fish brought that thought to life, so who knows. The barreleye fish has a head that is entirely see-through. It was originally presumed that they only had tunnel vision because any specimens collected would die before they reached the surface and their head would collapse. But now scientists are able to confirm that they actually rotate their eyes to look up through a fluid-filled shield, which is their head, to check out prey above them. They also have fins specifically adapted to allow the creature to hover frozen in place. Their eyes are also designed to capture light just enough to see silhouettes of their prey, so they have really incredible eyes. Weird. They look so pretty though. I like them. Number 6, BENTHOCODON. The thing that fascinates me the most about the creatures in the Mariana Trench is their size and appearance. Why? The water pressure at the bottom of the trench is about 8 tons per square inch, about 60,000 pounds per square inch. You'd think to be able to stand that pressure you'd have to be like Godzilla or something, but that's not the case. It's close to the exact opposite. The BENTHOCODON is a deep sea jelly that is entirely opaque and floats around in a deep red hue, pretty delicate and really small. The opaque bell serves as a way of hiding its food in case their bioluminescent lunch signals other predators. It has over 1,500 tentacles, and despite its little size and delicate flesh, it can survive the immense pressure of the deep. So figure that one out. Number 5, the STOUT BLACKSMELT. This deep sea dweller has also been dubbed the owlfish due to its eyes. In comparison to its body, its eyes are like pretty massive, and we can guess why. The STOUT BLACKSMELT uses its massive eyes to help capture any light it can lay its eyes on. The eyes have cones in them, have like narrow cones that help them suck in as much light as possible, kind of like a vacuum for light. It is a feature they definitely need while they continue to live at depths of over 6,600 meters. Not too much else is known about this little guy, save for the fact it definitely can't stand against a squid. Here's a video of this poor fish losing a battle with a squid. Check it out.
Owlfish are predators that feed on small crustaceans and jellies. They have enormous eyes to help them find their food in the dim light at great depths.
Number 4, the anglerfish / the nope fish. This is the most terrifyingly ugly fish in the world. There are over 200 species of anglerfish that dominate the midnight zone with their terrifying good looks. Each are similar dark brown and gray in color with massive heads and mouths decorated in sharp translucent teeth. The largest species can reach up to 3.3 feet in length or significantly smaller, less than a foot. They are the horror movie villain of the deep with tricky bioluminescent lures. Thanks to these horrifying creatures, Finding Nemo almost had a grimmer ending. Despite their size, the mouth of the anglerfish is massive and, like a python, can stretch wide enough to consume prey twice their size. Considering there's absolutely no light, it's cold and lonely, I guess it makes sense that they are a little angry. One can't afford to make friends out of fish when their next meal could be days away, so fish aren't friends, they are food. Number 3, DUMBO octopus. I love it so much. Weird cute is the best combination. Okay, fight me. I'll just show you a picture of this. Meet the only cute thing to live in such a dark place, the DUMBO octopus. The DUMBO octopus, as you can guess, resembles Disney's adorable Dumbo elephant, as it has big fins that look like ears on either side of its head and just like whoop flings around. These fins help this floating boopity boop steer through currents. They try so hard. While they vary in color and size, they usually reach around 20 to 30 centimeters, so they're really small. While some have also been found to almost reach 6 feet, so that's like one you can hug. Sadly, you won't come across them in shallow water, as these cute water babies are only found around 400 to 4,800 meters below the surface. Since where they live is so dark, they don't need an ink sac to defend themselves, so they don't have one. But honestly, who would want to attack this little guy? Look at those eyes. Puss in Boots can take a seat. Number 2, the tripod fish. Can we talk about how this fish looks like they are an alien standing on the moon? Kinda, sorta, yeah? Anyways, yes, that fish is literally standing on the sand. The tripod fish is yet another fish that has adapted in a strange way to live in the deepest, darkest depths of over 6,000 meters. Another tiny but mighty example, it can only grow to about 3 centimeters long, while its long, bony fins can extend to a meter, allowing it to stand. Researchers estimate that fluid is pumped into them, which allows them to become rigid so they can actually prop themselves up. If you're wondering why they want to be taller, ask yourself that question the next time you purchase a pair of heels. By standing tall, it's got the best vantage point to capture prey such as small crustaceans. As they float in the current, the tripod fish can just open their mouths and catch them like snowflakes. However, it is practically blind due to its habitat, so its fins sense vibrations to anticipate predators, so otherwise it just kind of waits there for food. Number 1, last but not least, the Mariana snailfish. Though it doesn't look like it could withstand pressures of 1,000 feet below, the Mariana snailfish proves yet again the age-old phrase of never judge a book by its cover. Meet the deepest fish in the ocean, which thrives at 8,000 feet below sea level. Though they look small, fragile, and slightly translucent, these little guys are actually the top predator at this depth. With few predators, they get the cream of the crop when it comes to food down there. They kind of look like white fat goldfish with a long narrow tail. Its flesh is so translucent you can even see its liver through the skin. Compared to some of the other creatures on this list, it definitely doesn't scream robust survivor, but has adapted in a new clever way scientists are still trying to understand.
Starting us off at number 10 are zombie worms or bone-eating worms. Now this creature can grow up to being 2 inches long if it's female, whereas the males are microscopic. Now despite being worms and not sounding all that scary, they can eat rock-hard bones of animals 1,000,000 times bigger than them, like whales. They secrete acids that allow them to access the inner contents of the bones, and then the symbiotic bacteria converts the bone's proteins and fats into food for the worms. They have feathery branches all over them that help pour oxygen into the worm so it stays alive. They can be found at the depth of around 9,491 feet, feeding on the carcasses of dead whales. I'm okay with worms, but these worms I cannot do. Coming in at number 9 is the vampire squid. It's incredibly fast, incredibly pale. It sparkles in the light. You know what it is. The vampire squid. But if you said Edward Cullen, I wouldn't be mad either. Now the vampire squid is the last surviving member of the Vampira morphida, and therefore they share qualities with both the octopus and the squid. It uses its ear-like fin to swim, and its jellyfish-shaped body helps it swim fast. They can grow up to being 30 centimeters long and vary from being a pale red color to being jet black. When they're on the hunt, they use the photophores covering their body to light up in patterns that confuse their prey. When they're the ones being hunted, excited, they pull the webbing between their tentacles right over their head and just hide in there kind of like a cocoon. Kind of like I do when I'm having a depressive episode, just in my cocoon. At number 8, we have the deep sea hatchetfish. Now, I don't ever use the term fugly because I think it's so rude, but this sour-faced looking fish is actually fugly. The hatchetfish is quite small. They only go up to 3 to 12 centimeters long, which is actually nothing. Hence, as you can imagine, they're quite an easy prey. Despite being disadvantaged by their size, their camouflaging techniques makes them basically invisible to predators. They produce light from their stomach, making them bioluminescent. They control how much light they emit by how much light is in the water at the time. If you reveal your silhouette, then it's game over, so they try and match the light levels in the water so they remain hidden. They can be found anywhere between 50 meters below the surface to 1,500. Filling our number 7 slot is the ping pong tree sponge, aka the chondrocladia. Honestly, when I first saw a picture of the sponge, I thought it was a bunch of balloons on a stick, but I mean, I refuse to judge the creature by its name or its balloon-like structure, so let's get into it. It's thin and long and has little translucent balls at the end of it which look like ping pong balls, hence the name. However, they're actually dotted with tiny hooks, meaning if any prey gets too close, they'll become trapped and then the sponge will just start eating it alive. It is legitimately a flesh-eating sponge that's found 2,700 meters under the surface. At number 4 is the deep sea dragonfish. I feel like the deeper the creatures are, the uglier they get. Like, why is that the rule of this video? The dragonfish has oversized teeth, slippery skin that looks like an eel's, and a hideous face. Reaching up to 6 inches long, they can be found between 700 to 6,000 feet below the surface and are known as an assassin. Like most deep sea creatures, the dragonfish is bioluminescent and not only uses it to hide from its predator and prey, it also glows in order to communicate with its own kind. They're ugly because they have this whisker-like lighted barbell coming out from its lower jaw that other fish think is a meal, so they just come closer and closer thinking they're gonna get their lunch, and they're not. You know why? Because it's a trap. It's a trap. Now, at number 2 is the telescope octopus, found at depths deeper than 6,500 feet. These octopi don't swim horizontally, no, they actually suspend themselves upwards. That makes it harder for predators below them to see their shape. They're almost completely transparent, and the reason they're called the telescope octopus is because they have 2 protruding eyes that not only rotate, they also allow the octopus a much wider peripheral vision. Honestly, they're also kind of cute and small, and their eyes are tiny. They're just very cute little creatures. The octopus, it looks like one of those toys you'd get in a McDonald's Happy Meal. I know this because I have eaten many McDonald's Happy Meals growing up. It's my go-to order, my chicken burger, gotta have it. And finally, at number 1 is the goblin shark. Now, I think this creature is by far the ugliest one on the list, which may be why it takes our number 1 spot, I'm not gonna lie to you. Also known as a living fossil, this species is 125 million years old and can be found at depths lower than 4,300 feet. They can grow anywhere between 10 to 13 feet long, and the most prominently ugly thing about them is their snout. It kind of resembles a sword, and its jaws not only protrude, they extend when eating. If that isn't horrific enough, they also have 30 to 50 teeth on their upper jaw and 30 to 60 on their lower. The goblin shark uses sight, smell, and electroperception to track down their prey, but you don't know that much about them since sightings of them are so rare. And that is it for today's video, guys. You already know I don't like the water, I hate sharks, I have such a phobia. You're not gonna find me trying to look for any of these creatures, to be honest. Screw that shit.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have giant tube worms. These guys were totally unknown to scientists until the discovery of the hydrothermal vents that we talked about last time. Like the vent crabs, these giant tube worms also live off of and thrive in these extreme areas. These giant tube worms feed off of the tiny bacteria that get their energy from the chemicals coming from the vent water. These giant tube worms grow to be around 8 feet or over 2 meters, and they have no mouth or digestive tract. Instead, they rely on those bacteria we just talked about to live inside of them for their food, like a wonderful symbiotic relationship. These guys can best be spotted by their bright red plume, which is used for exchanging compounds with the seawater such as oxygen and carbon dioxide. I could talk about these guys for forever because there's so many interesting facts about them, but I'll end off with just one more, and that is that the outer shell of these worms is made up of a natural substance called chitin, which is also the main component of the exoskeletons of crabs, lobsters, and shrimps. Okay, one more quickly, but I swear it's the last one. These tube worms also have no eyes, but they can sense movements and vibrations, and they will retreat into their protective tubes when they feel threatened. Okay, now I'm actually done. In our number 9 spot today we have the frogfish. Frogfish are weird looking creatures, but they are also incredible at disguising themselves. They're fairly sedentary fish and they love to find their home on the seafloor at depths of around 1,000 feet or 300 meters. They range from a few inches to a foot in length, and their colors vary greatly, which is how they're able to blend in with their surroundings so easily. They actually have the ability to change their color if their environment changes, with a process taking somewhere from a few days to a few weeks. While they can glide through the water, they sometimes also use their fins to basically walk along the sea floor. They feed off of things like other fish and invertebrates, and on their heads they have a special modified fin that kind of resembles a fishing rod with bait on it, which they use to lure in their prey. Little does the unsuspecting prey fish know, while it thinks it's about to get a meal, it's about to become the frogfish's meal. Frogfish are able to eat prey that is much larger than themselves, as they have the ability to expand their mouth cavity to 12 times its resting size, which is insane. In our number 8 spot today we have the deep-sea lizardfish. Deep-sea lizardfish are a small family of deep water fish who are related to the telescope fish. These guys have flat heads and curved, barbed teeth, and they grow up to 78 centimeters or 31 inches in length, which makes them a pretty moderately sized fish. They prefer to stay at depths of 1,600 meters or 5,200 feet, and they are actually one of the world's deepest living apex predators. These lizardfish are known to eat anything that comes their way, including other fish of their own kind. Despite the lack of light in the depths of the ocean, these guys have large eyes and pupils, and their vision is actually really important for their prey detection, as their well-developed eyes allow them to see any residual or bioluminescent light. Not a lot is known about their reproduction habits, but one thing that is known is that the deep-sea lizardfish have both male and female reproductive organs, which is thought to be an adaptation to low population density. In our number 7 spot today we have the ghost shark. These guys are also commonly referred to as ratfish or spookfish, and their closest living relatives are sharks and rays, but their last common ancestor lived with them around 400 million years ago. Ghost fish were once abundant and diverse, but throughout the years that has changed greatly, and they are now mostly confined to deep water. They prefer to live around 2,600 meters or 8,500 feet deep, and they have elongated bodies with bulky heads. They grow to be around 150 centimeters or 4.9 feet, and their skeletons are made of cartilage. They don't have scales and instead have smooth skin, and they range in color from black to a sort of brownish gray color. These guys use electroreception to find their prey, which is the ability to perceive natural electric stimuli, and they also have a venomous spine in front of their dorsal fins, which acts as a form of protection for them. In our number 6 spot today we have the long-tail red snapper. These fish feature a beautiful red color, and they also have very large eyes, which help it make its home in the deep sea. These guys can grow to be 3 feet or 0.9 meters long and 30 pounds. They have a forked tail that grows larger as the fish matures, and sometimes the tips of the tails have a black or white color on the ends. It takes about 4 years for these guys to reach maturity, which is relatively long for the fish world. There are a few species of this kind of fish, and they can be found in many areas of our oceans, and they are considered a delicacy in some places and cultures. It probably isn't the Mariana Trench variety that people are eating, however, as that would be quite a costly and difficult meal to achieve. In our number 5 spot today we have acorn worms. There are a few species of acorn worms, but one in particular finds its home in the deepest points of our seas. These acorn worms can grow up to 3 feet or just under a meter in length, and they often have brightly colored bodies. They have cilia on their underside, which are used to glide over the ocean floor, albeit slowly, as they travel at about 3 inches per hour. As they move along, they suck the waste from the ocean floor into their gut, and they also constantly leave a trail of feces behind them, which is a nice gross fact for ya. When they are ready to move to a new feeding location, they empty their gut, and then they just drift over the bottom, and they do this with the help of an excreted balloon of mucus, so this whole point is just a double whammy of grossness. They can usually be found at depths of around 1,500 to 3,700 meters or 4,900 to 12,100 feet. In our number number 4 spot today we have basket stars. Basket stars belong to the same phylum as starfish, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers. They resemble starfish, but they have 5 long, slender, and flexible arms. Each one of the 5 arms also branches out itself repeatedly, with each branch getting thinner, which makes the final branch quite thin and usually curled at the end. The central disc of the basket star, where all of the arms come off of, is very distinct. While some basket stars have neatly placed arms that look amazing and beautiful, some basket stars look pretty wild and strange. Basket stars move by wiggling their arms around, and they have the ability to curl into a ball when they feel threatened. They also use their arms to catch their prey as they position themselves in the current of the water. They feed on things like krill, small crustaceans, and zooplankton. Surprisingly, these guys do have a mouth, which is located on the bottom side of their disc. In our number 3 spot today we have predatory tunicate. These guys are basically like the Venus flytraps of the deep sea. These invertebrates make their home anchored along the deep sea canyon walls and sea floor as they wait for their meals to drift on by. Like the flytrap, when they catch a piece of prey, their mouth will snap shut until they are finished digesting their meal. These guys start off life looking kind of like tadpoles, and then they swim around until they find a place to land, which they do upside down by secreting an adhesive to keep them in place. From here they undergo a metamorphosis and have an incredibly large change. Despite having to worry about its predators, these guys are also very picky about where they live. They need to make sure the chemicals in the water as well as the temperature of the water are just right, and it's also imperative that they stay in place once they find their spot. If they're removed from the canyon wall, they unfortunately will die. The predatory tunicate may seem a little weird, but one cool thing is that they have been found to be useful in the medical world, and they may even have the potential to help with conditions such as melanoma and leukemia, which is absolutely incredible. In our number 2 spot today we have the deep sea hermit crab. Okay, many of us have seen or heard of a hermit crab before, so at a first thought they aren't the weirdest thing out there, but as it turns out, the deep sea variety is quite interesting. Instead of these guys carrying around empty gastropod shells like the hermit crabs we are used to, these guys instead carry around sea anemones, and it is one of the weirdest looking things I have ever seen. It looks like these crabs are missing a pair of legs, but instead the legs have actually been adapted to hold the anemone in place. I don't know about you guys, but I really think this one looks like some sort of disgusting sea spider that I hope just stays at the deepest depths of the Mariana Trench. No offense to the crab, it's just not my cup of tea. In the number 1 spot today we have the DAIKOKU seamount. This seamount is located in the Mariana Arc, about 325 meters or 1,060 feet below sea level, and it was found to be hydrothermally active in 2003. In 2014, it was discovered that the submarine volcano was either actively erupting or had been very recently. Along with these discoveries came the realization that this seamount also features a pool of liquid sulfur that was covered in some sort of black coating. This little sulfur cauldron is approximately 4.5 by 3 meters large and is 420 meters deep. There are rising gases like carbon dioxide and hydrogen that are coming out of the pool, and they are moving that black crust that sits on top. The rising gases appear like smoke, but underwater, which is super cool. The really cool thing about this little sulfur lake is that it is almost an anomaly on Earth, and one of the few other sulfur lakes that are known is actually located on Jupiter's moon, Io. While there have been a few other liquid sulfur lakes found on Earth, the one located near this seamount is the most impressive one we have ever found on our planet.